Hello, Jacob. You are up as the last caller, and then we're going to do a hand of mine. Hello.
Hey, Bart, can you hear me?
How's it going, Jacob? Where are you calling out of?
Good. I'm from your neck of the woods. We actually played before. So this hand is out
Oh,
of
that's right.
Encore.
At Encore. So you were the one that called in about, you said we played at Chasers, right?
Yeah, we played PLO at Chasers like twice. I played
Okay.
one session with you for a long time.
Right. You have the UMass Lowell hat, right?
Sure, yeah.
Which is where I'm trying to get my stepdaughter. Keeps
Yeah, yeah,
telling
that
her
also we talked
she
about,
likes
yeah.
STEM, and I keep explaining to her how much money can be wasted at the private undergraduate level, and that it doesn't mean anything, the undergraduate level, and that you should go to the best state school that's possible, especially for a degree where you can actually get a job coming out of a 4-year degree. And she likes engineering, so I'm like,
Yeah, they have a super good mechie program.
yeah. All right, so this is Encore Boston. Okay, what's the game? 2-5 or what?
No, so it is 1-3, and I'm on the list for the other games. So I'm only here for a short period of time. And I don't know like a single player at the table. It's like about as close to in a vacuum as you can get.
So it's a 500 cap, I think. I played a couple hands of 1-3 last week there. Yeah, 500 cap. Okay.
The hand immediately prior to this, I had like tripled up. So I'm like covering the table and becomes relevant for other reasons in a minute. But I am in the hijack. We are 8-handed for this hand.
Okay.
1200 effective with the button, who ends up being the villain in the hand.
Yep.
So under the gun raises to 15. There's 2 calls ahead of me. I have a 7-8 of diamonds, and I throw in the call.
Okay. So hero calls.
Button calls and the big blind calls. So we were like 6-handed.
You know, it's interesting because like I found myself calling in the spot too, because you're doing the setup of exactly where I would be playing in a 1-3 game here, Jake, where you're like waiting for 2-5, and you're like, all right, I'm gonna play some hands at 1-3. If you were playing like absolutely like for the max profitability here at like 1-3, you could make a case that this becomes I think even a fold. You know, it's funny because the hand before we were talking about the old school 15, 25, 35. Although you said you were 1200, how you were 1200 effective?
Yeah, I tripled up in like the first orbit. I
Oh,
had
okay.
kings and like 2 people jammed into me. So I
Okay.
was living the dream here.
So you're at 1200 effective with the guy who opened for a raise. I mean, you're certainly deep enough here.
No, 1200 effective with the
Oh,
button.
with the
Yeah,
button.
under the gun raised. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're supposed to be looking at the under the gun stack to try to figure out like, you know, am I 25 times, you know, can I make like, you know, over 400 here? It just becomes problematic when there's so many people here that are in the hand with a mid-ish suited connector. It becomes very hard to realize your hand unless like you smack it. But then there's also a problem though too. You're like, oh, I'll 3-bet squeeze. It's such like restricted stack depth in these games. Like it's like, okay, he's gonna make it like 75. The guy calls, you know, people are not folding top pair. And so I mean, you could definitely make a case here for 3-betting, sometimes 2, just to pick up the overlay, you know, but you got to watch the stack sizes as well.
Yeah, for sure. Honestly, in the moment, I'm like raking in this giant pot I just won, and like I don't even look at my cards till the action's on me, and I just like look down and throw in the call. I didn't even like think super deep about it.
Yeah. All right. So what is it? 5 ways? Is that right?
6.
6 ways. All right. So 6 ways to the flop, and pot's $90 ish. Okay.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
We flop ace of spades, 9 of diamonds, 5 of clubs.
So you flop a gut shot.
Yeah, gut shot, backdoor diamonds, nothing very exciting. Checks to me, I check. The button bets 30.
So checks to hero checks. And that's funny because this reminds me of a hand from the podcast last week where maybe you would sometimes stab at this if it was like 3 ways, but not 6 ways, right? So button bets 30. Okay.
He gets 2 calls. It's the big blind. The original raiser folds, and one of the middle position dudes calls.
So I'm going to put, mid position calls. So this is interesting. Let's just take a look at this and visually look at this here. So preflop raiser checks, hero checks, last position bets 30. Big blind calls. MP, when we're talking about positional awareness, which is a term I use a lot in crush slide poker, this is exactly what I'm talking about. MP is to the left of the preflop raiser and check the flop. The big blind is the only one if we were to make the assumption that he is naturally checking to the preflop raiser. That's sort of an undefined hand here.
Yep.
And he's not raising. Now, he could obviously slow play like a set of nines or a set of fives, but I can kind of see where you might be going with this one where, now all of a sudden you've got $180 in the pot and you might actually make a play at this one. Now you'd have to, at 1-3, you got to like be pretty cognizant of stack sizes and like what's going on, right? You know what I mean? Because this just becomes a spew if a guy's just going to go in with like, ace 8 offsuit when he's got like 120 left, right? So the setup has to be good, right? I could also see overcalling too. I mean, obviously I can see overcalling here too, just because like, the pot is 180, it's 30 for you to call. So you're getting 6-1. You only need to make 10. I mean, you probably got a 1 in 11 shot. I'm calling the unseen cards. That's like 4 outs. So you only need to make like 10-1, right? And you're getting 6-1 right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if you called or raised, but
if you were going to make a play at it, assuming everybody was deep enough where you felt like you could do that, what would be your sizing?
Well, again, I think it would be let's just make it easy and assume like $1,000.
Sure, yeah.
Deep. I mean, I'd probably I might go like 185. I think that leaves enough room to go 2 streets. You know what I mean? Something like that. But again, like if the stacks are shallower, like if they only start with 500, then you're committing, then it's like, all right, well, do I even want to do that? Or can I make it like 100? I always want to try to leave as much stack depth as possible to get the guy to fold out later on. So these get a little bit complex. I always say like online poker is a little bit easier to play than live poker in certain situations where you want to know exactly what everybody has, especially like in tournaments, right? So what'd you do?
What I actually wanted to do was I figured I'm like closing the action. I got the gut shot. I got the back doors. I just wanted to throw in the 30 and peel a turn. So like I said before, I'm like raking in this huge pot from the previous hand. And like I got this old guy directly to my right who is telling me about how if he had called me with like 7-3, he would have stacked me. You know what I mean? And whatever. So I'm packing my chips, and everything up to this point has happened pretty quick. So I go to grab 6 red chips to call.
Yep.
And I throw it in. And then the plot twist is that one of them is a black chip, and I live misclick to 125.
The good old live misclick. Hero live misclicks. Of course, what that means is like, comes from online poker, misclick, like you hit the wrong button or you raise the wrong amount. So that's what comes in. You didn't realize you had a black chip, right? So it actually goes 125. Now, did you say anything or did you kind of just take it in stride?
No, I took it in stride, but I might have like micro reacted. I didn't like think I did, but no, I definitely didn't like say anything.
Right. Like, oh shit. By the way, as I've talked about for many, many years, you've been with me for a long time. I have not been diagnosed with this, but I really feel like I have like this disorder called dysgraphia, which is, if you know what dyslexia is, it's a writing disability, like where I can't print. Literally, like when we go to fill out forms, my wife and I, like I can't fill out a form now, especially in block print. Cursive is actually, and this is why I think I've always had this, because when I read the symptoms of it, I just fit right in. I can't block print. The reason why people with dysgraphia, because when they take the pen or the pencil off the paper, it has to do with coordination with your hands, basically. It's a neurological thing, and I fit right into it. The reason why I bring that up is because I have live misclicked so much that when I play tournaments now, the WSOP, I verbalize everything.
Yep.
Everything, because you're dealing with foreign chips, you're dealing with escalating blinds. I can do the craziest part of this is that I can do the math out of like, oh, a guy has a stack of like, those are 5,000 chips and he's got a stack of 20. How much does he have? That's 100,000, right? But for whatever reason, in the heat of the moment, the shape of the stack and the colors, something goes haywire in my brain where I don't get the right answer. And obviously I'm good at math, so it's not a math thing. It's more of like a neurological thing.
Yeah.
So it's just, like I said, and I finally made that decision. I was telling Mike G, The final bad misclick that I made was when we were down to 11 people in the $10,000 Raz tournament in 2017. And I had, if people know play Raz, I had a king up, so I had to bring it in. I should bring in like in stud. And I picked the wrong chip. I picked like a 5-key chip instead of 500, and I had to complete with a king. With 11 people left in a 10K, I actually ended up winning that hand, funny enough. But I was like, all right, I'm done. That's it. All right, so you live misclick to 125. Okay. And then what happens?
So the button, the original better, kind of like gives me a stare down for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
And then he ends up throwing in the call, and the other two fold.
Okay.
So like a lot of this hand is, I'm trying to figure out like what he perceives me to have at this point, and then like what I perceive him to have from here. Because it's just kind of a weird, like the flop's super dry, and then I'm checking second to last to act 6-handed, and then throwing in this weird check raise.
Right. I get you. Yeah, no, I mean, it makes sense, right? Like it makes sense. It looks kind of strange, right? Because you're sort of in late-ish position, and why wouldn't you just bet? There's no guarantee that the button was gonna, but you don't think that he knows you misclicked, right?
I don't think so, but he is, like I'm in it's like a 1-seat, 3-seat thing. So we are close together. So if anyone's going to pick up on it, it would be him. But I think that he's more staring me down just because like the line's weird.
Yeah. All right. So the pot's 400 now.
Yep.
Uh-huh.
And we turn the 10 of diamonds.
Wow. 10 of diamonds. As Pablo L says, villain is very ace heavy here. Yeah. And this is why too, when you would ask me about sizing, I kind of find, first of all, I don't like to go after these types of boards where top pair is not going to change, right? Like, we've got a thing on Crush Lab Poker, attacking the field better, where I love to attack like in limp pots or attacking the field better means like when the preflop raiser checks, which is exactly what you have happen here, and someone else bets, you attack them with equity. But the best boards to do that on are the ones that are like 9-deuce-3, 9-deuce-4, where like a 9 as top pair is not going to be a strong hand by the end. Ace as top pair is obviously quite static. The other thing too, so I don't expect an ace to fold to 125, but you actually might get an ace to fold like at 185, and then you get to start to pound more. That was why I had said like that sizing at 1,000 effective. But the turn's the 10 of diamonds, so it's ace of spades, 9 of diamonds, 5 of clubs, 10 of diamonds. I mean, you turn the world here, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I guess one of my main questions for you is like, what do you put like? Where do you figure his range is on the flop call?
I mean, I think it's an ace a lot. I mean, I guess he could have like a big, I mean, he could have a big hand that he's just calling, like, 5s or 9s, that just calls, right? And then, but I don't think that there's any difference though from an ace here versus aces up with what you're representing. Like he can have an ace, but he could also have ace 9 or ace 5 and then just kind of play it defensively.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
So my thought here was just like, when I misclicked, I was pretty ready to like give up on the hand, you know what I mean? So then I turn the world, and I'm thinking like, any hand he's calling me with here, I'm still like a 70-30 dog against, even though I've turned the world here, and I don't know how much he's folding. So I just kind of want to like realize my equity. So I just check.
So you're just saying that you don't think that there's any like, he's just not going to fold on the turn here.
Well, like, I don't know. I figure like maybe if he has like a mid ace,
like ace 7 or something like that.
Yeah, he might let it go. But if any of the like 2 pairs or sets, or like ace 10 is a 2 pair now too.
Right, of course.
So I figured I should just like kind of try to take it. I'm not sure what you think about it.
I mean, it's interesting because you would think that like as a reflex, you just want to, and again, this is why stack sizes are so important here too, because you could be like, I'm going to bet like 450, something like that. And then if he calls again, you kind of give up if you don't make it. And you just, he doesn't have like a raising. Like he's going to give you a reverse free card a lot of time with aces up here. So you could take that line where you go, all right, remember, it's got to have enough stacked up though too. That's why it's problematic if you only started with a certain amount. And then
he and him are pretty deep.
Right. But I mean, like, say like he only had like 600 left here, or something like instead, then you can't really make that play. But sometimes you can make this play and then the guy doesn't raise you and then you just give up at the end And, he's kind of giving you like a reverse free card. Because I think if you went like 400 and he called, I think it would probably be a pretty big spew if you went at the end on the river. But I think people said, well, what would 300 to 400 do? You might get a lot of folds now from non-aces up types of hands. Another play that you can do, I've talked about this, it's just so crazy to implement, is you check, hope you get like a reverse free card, and then you go for like the double check raise, which looks super fucking strong. But the problem with that though is that if he gets scared and it isn't betting off with anything but aces up, then the double check raise isn't going to work, right? You're going to get called. Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm like PLO brained right now. I've been playing mostly PLO, so I'm just like kind of trying to realize my equity here.
Yeah.
Because I just like turned the world. I was planning on like giving up on the hand most of the time.
Because you're sort of like mentally flustered. So you check, okay. Yep.
Yeah. And he fires 190, so like half pot.
Interesting. So the button bets 190. So that's interesting for people in the chat. Again, Hero misclicked the flop on ace 9-5 rainbow. Turns the world though with his 8-7 of diamonds, 10 of diamonds. So he's open-ended flush draw, straight draw. But then decides to check for the reasons that we talked about. And the button bets 190. Because I just want, from all my experience with live poker, I don't think that the button is doing a lot of betting here with ace jack. How about that?
Yeah.
I don't think the button's doing a lot of betting here with ace jack. So, and then you look at, well, ace king, ace queen, some of those hands are going to be 3-bet off pre.
They should.
Yeah. I mean, I know it's 1-3, so I can sort of see, it's like what, but again, on the flip side to this, whenever you have a hand that's got like, a bunch of equity, right? I mean, you get a 15-out draw, right? You could probably have like 30 to 35% equity here with one card to come. You probably only need him to fold only a sliver of the time. But if you take a look and you're like, well, if he's only betting aces up or better here, he's probably never folding aces up. So then it would become a spew if you jammed. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So did you call?
Yeah, so I just flatted.
So Hero calls, and now you get into a very interesting scenario here, which again is pretty unique to sort of low stakes live poker. By the way, the pot is 780, and you guys have put in.
He's got like 870 left.
Okay, so just a little bit over a pot size bet.
Yep.
The interesting part of this is that if you somehow make your hand on the river, depending on what it is, at this level, I think you're forced to lead a lot. Because you're going to get hands that are just going to check back so often because they're going to get scared. In a single raise pot, you cannot get tricky with it. So you might say, well, wow, like if I hit a 6 here, an offsuit 6, right? Ace 9's going to bet. It's ace 9, 5, 10, 6, right? Why wouldn't ace 9 bet? I can go for a check raise. And then the guy checks behind with like a set of 5s. You know what I mean? So...
you are on the exact right path. So we got a black 6 on the river.
Oh, wow. I did not know the river. Because, I mean, diamonds get, I think we can probably even agree more often if it's diamonds, right? Especially with the ace not being a diamond, people are going to check back a lot, like on the backdoor side. But here you got an offsuit 6, which is even like different than like a jack, right? Because if a jack comes, it's more scary because somebody looks at the board, they're like, oh, they lose to king, queen. Or they lose to, like, if they have ace 5 or ace 9, now they're losing to ace jack, right? But this is like the sort of best card in the world for you if you were to handpick a card that makes your hand, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
So yeah, the big question in this hand is like the sizing in this spot. Because I came to the same conclusion you were just saying, that like the worst case scenario is like he checks back ace 9 or ace 10 or 5s or something. So I figured I have to bet. But
yeah, this is pretty interesting. This one's pretty interesting because it's not like one of these ones, and I'm going to go over a hand in the podcast. I actually went up to Chasers. I was actually at when I wrote to you, actually, Jacob, I think I said I was at Chasers. They had 2-5, which is only running on Sundays now, 2-5 no limit. So I actually went up there after I was helping my parents who were selling their house on Wednesday. Finally, we get that over with. But at this level, like if you're in a situation where like if you're driving a hand like a flush draw and you make like the nut flush on the river, and then somebody leads into you from up front and you think they have a flush, you should pretty much always be jamming, right? All the time. You need to get max value. Here, this one's a little bit different because I do wonder, like your line looks pretty strong. Check raise, check call, and then like bet all in at the end. Although it's 1-3, so I think you probably can't go wrong by jamming. You might want to leave a little bit less if the guy's got overpot. Like maybe you bet 700 or something like that, you know?
Okay, yeah, I went significantly smaller. Yeah, I was like flustered with the whole hand, and I couldn't decide like how he would perceive my flop play, and then like what type of range that left him with. So I wanted to like I didn't know if he would if I jammed, is he just like gonna fold his like ace five hands?
Right.
And
That would be the concern, right?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then I figured like also the sets as far as they exist can probably should probably jam when I bet, given the fact that like I shouldn't really ever have 7-8 here. So that's like kind of the effect of nuts.
Yeah, but that's not going to happen though, because like there's a straight out there now. I don't. I think they're just going to call. I mean, what did you bet?
I ended up betting 325.
Because I thought you were just going to say like you were going to throw like a reverse block in or something. Like you were going to bet like 100 to try to like induce. No, I think hero bets 325. I'm not. I was been with you the whole hand, Jake, with your your thought process. I just think I go way larger. It's either going to be a jam for me or like just leave a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I told this hand to several people, and I got
Yeah.
a lot of like 500, 600
I think
area
700 personally, but yeah.
size up. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so hero goes 325, yeah.
And he actually ended up like going kind of deep into the tank. And my like perception of it is he was between folding and calling, not calling and raising. He ends up throwing in the call, and I table my hand, and he was somewhat upset about it. And I never ended up finding out what he had.
So you never found out where. I mean, he has to have aces up plus, right?
Yeah, he's got. I figure he has like
Ace 9 or ace 5, maybe.
yeah, or maybe he floats ace 10 and turns two pair.
Well, not yeah. He bet calls with ace 10 and turns
Yeah.
two pair, right? I think the thing though is that like I said, the reason why I think that the river sizing is flawed is because I think maybe you could make a case where if you start up to get to the 700 level, ace 5 might, but it's 1-3 though, man. It's 1-3. The people can't fold two pair. I mean, I was going to say like maybe you start to think, well, if I go 700, maybe some ace 5 starts to fold out, but ace 9, ace 10, I just think that most hands that are calling 325 are going to call 600-700. So that's why I take that sizing.
Yeah, that sounds about right. I definitely like didn't think the sizing was good. That was the main reason I wanted to call it in,
Yeah.
and just because it's an interesting spot. But
yeah, interesting one. Thank you very much. I appreciate it.